when I left today, they just both stared at me like, what do you think you're doing? It's not, it's the middle of summer, where are you going? But for those of you that don't know me before, again, I'll kind of lay out the plan for any class that we have. Most of you have had me or know me from genetics, which again, to an O-level class, it's challenging because it is very like alinear sort of, you bounce between things. This one is a little more of a straightforward march games. This one's more like a hike, one foot in front of the other, if that makes more sense. I don't know what genetics would be then, kind of like finding your way through a swamp maybe? Nah, something easier. I gotta give myself some credit here, come on. Regardless, we live in a very, different world, but there is a lot of beauty and positivity in it, and we can all have a part of it. In this class especially, I think there will be chances to discuss kind of that cool side of things. And again, most of us, almost all of us in the class are biomed of some sort. Hopefully, we go beyond the red text a little bit and really enjoy things. So again, I've told you the story before where, like in high school, did like biology, I was like, oh, this is really kick-ass. And I took like a pathophys from a nurse practitioner class in high school, and I loved it. But like I told most of you, in college, I opened up a frog for a dissection, and I was like, we're done. Never going to do that again. So those of you will be stronger than I. We'll see that there's no lab component to this class, but it is 3 hours. So once in a while, we're going to pop over there and do something fun. Rarely, if ever. I don't think ever graded. I think it's just going to be for the good stuff. All right. Some stats about me if you didn't know. Fun colors. I like graphs. Here's how there's how many, see how many people I'm teaching each time? Look at you guys. Oh, look at the genetics chunk is always big. Oh, cancer biology, that was us. I gave you guys the hot neon green. It was good. Open resource savings. Notice how I didn't punish you with a book. I do like textbooks though, to be fair. And this is a class that if you ever buy one, you probably would use it in the future. That said, we do have some good free resources in the syllabus, and I'm always up for any recommendations. Also, hooray! I stayed busy. I was going to make a joke, like stop asking me to write letters of rec. That's a joke. You can. All of you would pretty much know all of you. You can. Actually, I think half of you have already done one for. But good times. Lots of meetings, lots of effort to make sure that you guys are successful, okay? That's the plan. That will always be the plan. Perfect. And that said, no matter what mechanisms of support we have, at the end of the day, do be you. I'm trying to get you across that finish line as a legendary coach might try, but I can't take too much credit. You want a lot more than me. Again, that is the game, and this game will play one more time should you guys find yourself in the next level, for example. So we aim to get it right this time. Those of you, 2 of you in this class actually, have reflected that your MCAT has been a lot easier because of the advanced classes that you had, for example, and that's been awesome. And that's the goal of something like this. Okay, and again, some fun stats. This isn't really here to scare you guys. I'm saving this for tomorrow for genetics, for the new crop that's coming. Some basics though, if you don't attend class, you're in this little red group. That'd be a mistake. If you do more reviews, you typically a little better. Now again, like it says in the thing, stats predict populations, not individuals. I'm a cancer bioinformatics person. Even the person that has the best stats sometimes doesn't go well, and vice versa. So you can enter these populations by kind of, right? Again, I'm talking to a bunch of elites here, so I'll just move on. I just think this is pretty, man. This is the culmination of the genetics research. We're even going to add to it next, but again, most of it is sort of like an inertia thing. But yeah, don't sleep on attending and doing a few reviews when you need them. Again, you can kind of see some factors below there that aren't as correlated with things. We don't want to enter that pool. All right, enough about me yelling at you guys. This is actually sort of whenever you're making a business pitch, you're actually supposed to like show the weaknesses off. Who's done the 16 personalities test, right? Yeah, you've seen this. Turns out ENTJs are actually the rarest supposedly now, so I feel pretty cool about that. I'm also an only kid. That I guess that kind of tracks. Now that said, I mean, I'm not going to argue that I'm in some pretty good company over here. Who's ever seen Devil Wears Prada? Yeah, that's right. You guys should see it. It's on Hulu right now. But for any strength, there is weakness. Again, even though I'm efficient, I can be a little cold sometimes. Maybe I don't know. I don't think most of you in this room have really seen too much of that because most of you have done pretty easy in my class, et cetera. But again, I am pulled in a few directions this term. Genetics is the big guy, right? 96 of them. So they have my unfortunate attention sometimes, but it happens. And, only children do have weaknesses. So it's all right. But as you examine yourself and as you would examine any patient profile as well, you can find strengths in yourself. So that's what I got out of 40 strengths. Very cool. But each strength is a weakness, right? Learners don't spend enough time just doing things. People that want harmony don't enter situations where they could make change, right? Each thing goes between itself. Plus, I don't know how 2 and 4 got next to each other, but it explained it was like you just really, I don't know. It was pretty confused by me, I think. Oh well. But now you're in the big kick-ass philosophy time, okay? You guys, like I said, all elite members of this class and this major. It's time to become the big kick-ass person that you always could be. Part of this, and I know I'm not going to be so boxy every so often, but we're in a very different time. Okay, you guys are going to be experts in biology when you walk across the stage. That is what that means. We all have this really good chance to find the very cool in parts of ourselves and parts of the world. We have that chance here, so I'm very excited for that. It's a little, I don't know. I have a lot of hope. Don't think that I'm very nihilistic, but for whatever reason, investment's sort of kind of on its head right now. Or sorry, not investment, education. People are, and you can question the value of anything, trust me. But there's been one thing that when you invest in, things go up. Now you're all investing in yourselves, and I know they're cheap. But it was recent history, this last century, this last 150 years, that things were not so easy. Or that something like this could be weaponized, okay? And again, you're all entering an age where things are a little different now because of the friendly little chatbots that we have. Remember, you have the gift of humanity in your hearts, okay? More than that, you got all kinds of stuff for the future ready to go, okay? So, don't ever give into the nihilism that I think is fed to us a little more aggressively than when I was a kid, for sure. So, and I know that's not easy to just do, but I'm here for you when you need me, anytime, okay? Because we've got some good stuff that we can do. This country, this world, everywhere. There's still a lot of good stuff on the horizon for all of us. I'm excited for that, and I hope you are too. So, as I just flooded you with a bunch of text and talking and etc., as you all know that have had me, slides are on, and the recording will be there for you, okay? So I know I talk fast and etc. I don't like when you guys 2x me in the speed and I sound like Mickey Mouse. It's very upsetting. Well, you shouldn't have laughed at that. That was a trap. All right, yeah, everybody who laughed, let's go in and clean the genetics lab. The reason I'm different this year and I feel like I should make sure that you know that you're important. You guys ever heard of that Fermi paradox before? It's the idea that in the universe, with the millions and hundreds of millions of galaxies, mathematically, there has to be life besides us, right? I'm kind of a stickler about data, though. So my stance is that we haven't seen anything. We're it, okay? And that responsibility does feel weighty on your shoulders. People often say, would it be worse if there were hundreds of other living things, or would it be just us? Because I'm in the latter camp, sadly. Which makes what we can do that much more important. Now, on to some more like fun stuff, and then we'll do some intros and some other good stuff. For those of you that haven't had me, this is kind of the system. Not too bad. So basically, I always got questions like, well, what's on the test? Well, now we have your answer. Reds, they're fair game. It doesn't mean word for word something's going on there. Green, more time to just like, this is kind of cool, kick-ass history, something, story, anything like that. Don't worry too much. Blue is important in this class. You guys have had me in other classes, but blue is the most important in this one. It's very similar for those of you that were with me in pharmacology, where, remember in pharmacology, a lot of the blue text was the diseases that the red text slides with the medication were treating. kind of reversing things here. When you see a blue text in here, imagine that it's me reminding you of something in phys, like what acetylcholine does. That's not going to be right on the test, is it? But it's like, yeah, it doesn't hurt to see this system and maybe make sure it's there so that when you can tackle these, you have some background and some foundation. Fun. And again, like I said, there's all kinds of fun stuff in here. And you can see all the stuff and the progress we've made for 10 years, for example. And we're gonna get to do some pretty neat societal stuff coming up here too, because there's been some new developments of treatments, things like that, that we didn't have 2 years ago. It's gonna be neat. Here, I want to see it. I don't know if I can zoom in on any of these in here, but some of them are kind of gross, other of them are kind of funny, like Cartman when he gets his eyes dilated. Or the leptin mouse, my personal favorite part of biology. Behold. But I think the other fun part of this is, again, like the 25 points in there. This is a new thing for a lot of you that have just had me in genetics. It's mostly just there to be like, all right, like in class and like, you know, like sort of not out of class, but like if you were scheduled to show up for a C-section and you're just like, sorry, I like didn't feel it today and didn't tell anybody, well, you'd get canned. Here, you probably only lose 10 points the first time, and you can regain stuff back, et cetera, et cetera. So again, part of this is we'll have a lot of moments, because again, 3 hours is a long time, where I'll turn to you guys. You guys can kind of communicate, network, things like that. Super good. It is a good way to make sure that you have the advantage and build the advantage that the AI clunker crowd, if they really use it too much, won't have, which is think of the doors that open when you can simply speak to people articulately and like be a nice person. 90% more doors open, like just like that. Trust me. I've seen too many. You guys don't see what I see, but there's too many people out in the world, and sometimes in here that literally face to face, if you got to talk to them or ask them something, I think they'd rather just leave the room. So part of that's this, but don't worry. I think this is usually pretty easy. All right, this one is a new thing. So I always have all these like fun assignment ideas, but assigning those is too many. Unless you were in cancer bio last fall and we just did like 8 of them. Sorry for helping you learn, you know, but you get to choose 2 across the time, and we'll just do like an office hour to like nail it, and we can do revisions, a couple other things, but this is my way of giving you access to that gray area of medicine, things like that, stuff like that. Oh no, I left in pull everywhere. We won't do that in this class. It's fine because there's enough of you that it's pretty easy. So little writings are fun. Start poking around that document and see what seems the easiest and most fun, and usually turns into a pretty nice little spot. All right, what do you guys think? Should I move any of these? Who laughed? All right, Gavin was with me in my last phys lab. Nice. It was Maddie and Paige. It was fun. That's kind of, yeah. Would you move genetics in there? Wait, we should ask Malcolm and Emmanuel. What would you move?
Oh, that's pretty good.
Okay, I'll leave it. I don't know. I was just talking big about how this one could maybe be up there. We'll see. We'll see. It's different strokes though. I'm not gonna lie. I probably put that up there though. Anyway, I think we'll be all right. Hooray! You guys have seen this slide too. Again, you know, I do the study of like how many hours people are working, like when the ones that are working a lot, like who passes in that group. I always interview them, and it's kind of just an encapsulation of this. I attend, I do some reviews, I collect my notes, I find the gaps, figure it out. That's a low way of saying it, but again, you can use this class as well to find and like have me kind of coach you through these big kick-ass mid-school style study strategies too, especially if you find that it's time for something like this. I'm happy during the open hours to like just run you through how to do retrieval practice, how to do find them, how to do notes as questions, things like that. That's part of my job. All right. Oh, what would you guys put on here? Yeah, I see you guys smirking. It's all right. What if you could design the absolute worst student on the planet? What would they do? You don't have to shout it out. Just think for a sec. Not the student that would make, not a hypothetical student that would make me mad. But just a literal, like, this universal, it would be just the worst thing. They would get a 0 in the class, essentially. Near 0. we're kind of joking here, because like I said, you guys are elites. I'm actually going to play this game with the genetics kids tomorrow. You guys got anything for me or no? We're all pretty familiar company in here. We can make some jokes out of it. Let's start with you don't go to class. That's probably going to get you right there.
I was just going to say straight up bed rotting through the semester, because
yeah,
that implies you don't pay attention at all, you don't come in, you don't do anything.
Yeah, and also doom scrolling and suffering. Yeah, self-suffering. I don't know. What else? Trying to think. Never come review things. Skip the tests. I don't know. That only happened one time, actually. Never happened again. Anyway, you can joke about this one, but we're not gonna spend too much time here. I'm not gonna do that. Anyway, move on to some fun, cool stuff. That's mostly a scary slide for the 200 levels. But yeah, we got some cool stuff to do here. And again, those of you that are from pharm, you'll see, especially from pharm, less from cancer, a similar structure. The main one on here is something you don't know. Who's downloaded the little Pathodex so far and just at least creeped around on it? It can be intimidating to just begin, but I promise you it's actually going to be more of like a guide, right? What possibly could be on the test? Is there a limit? Yeah, there is. It seems impossible now, but how many weeks do we have? 15? Those of you guys that have taken people with patho or pharm already, I mean, you can knock out in an open hour like 25 of those things or more, and especially if you have me or the other people around. But 3 hours is, again, a long time, hence why we can do some fun cases, writings, and I really didn't put this in here, but we will bounce over to the labs once in a while. And again, like I said, 0 points, no stakes, just fun times at that point. So I think we'll have a good time. Sweet. Time for me to shut up, finally. Mercifully. Usually the genetics crowd is so big, there's like a sigh of relief, and they're like, I didn't even talk that fast, oh my God. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3. I think that's that. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. Believe. Good. Do we all in? Okay, good. It was great. Nice.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, I think there's only you and Jonathan that I've never had in class before. Welcome to the team, though.
Thank you.
I said I'm an honest person. I keep them all up. It's all right. And I'm this close to getting monetized on YouTube, but it's better than nothing. So yeah, get those watch hours in for me. Come on, Scout needs cookies. So I just recorded that part. I think I can do that. I think I'm allowed. All right, so again, we're still not in any colored text territory, nothing red yet. But you will find that this class is somewhat expansive, right? There's a difference between, there's so many different like areas we're about to explore, right? Schizophrenia is very different than a gunshot, right? Think of any other like field spanning things, right? I think tuberculosis is very different than multiple personality disorder, right? We'll get to see all of them. Collecting them by physiological system does work fine. But you may start to see that there are certain things that are more, I don't want to put it so bluntly yet, but physical. Some things that maybe are more unknown. Did anybody else kind of feel that way about that one? Afflictions, that's usually reserved for things we're not 100% sure why this is happening, or even if it's happening, basically. Disease and condition. Think about, and again, I'm not going to call the cards out or anything here, but what each of these directions sort of means. And maybe you could start thinking, if you were a patient, which one of these would be the worst word to hear in the office? So very broad, but I am asking you to sort of like play the language game a bit here. We'll see, even though we will travel this very new place through each phys system. And oftentimes they won't seem very connected. Some are more connected than others, but that's the main challenge of this class, is that it is a large, essentially, country to visit. There are many places to go, even if it is all the same country. So, given that, I think raise your hand if you're more of the like a biomed type where you're looking to do straight med, dentistry, PA, something along those lines. So there, nice. Who's more like on the researchy science, like mad science side? Nice again. Then I'm trying to think, I don't want to leave anybody out here. Who's more just kicks ass at everything? There you go. You just do the fucking part. I raised my hands on all three. That wasn't me self-reflecting on that. And the good news is, even if you're in this class and you're still in that point where you're like, I don't know, I think you're still in a really good class. Doesn't matter. Same way that I'd say that if you took like ecology or something. Life and living things still manage to have the same patterns across time systems, no matter how they're scaled. Now, let's do some biomedish type stuff quick. And again, black text. So again, mostly just thinking and talking. I will never forget freshman year at Carleton, fall. I'm not going to tell you what year. I don't want you guys to know my age. But I was in a philosophy class, and for the first time, the professor, Daniel Grohl, it was his first class too, actually. He was basically like, why are you afraid of death? Because, think about it, the past is the past. Future does not exist. Only this moment exists, right? Which is always kind of cool to consider. But death means nothing. And death means the moment ends, so there can't be anything. So you shouldn't be able to experience the fear you have of this thing, right? And I was being mesmerized and was like, oh my God, I gotta think and write harder than this. Jeez. I went basically, who knows Rick and Morty? I was basically like, oh, geez. It was kind of rough. I was like, oh God, I was a little public school kid. So, even given the funny thought of me as a Morty, consider, a lot of you are going into something like this. And some of you that are like, well, I'm a little lower stakes, you know, patients I want to treat aren't life or death. Trust me that most of you going into anything that treats anything sort of chronic or lifelong, it's a conversation still. Do you know what my dentist friends say to me is how many times they just wish a 60-year-old guy who now has heart disease, overinflammation, brain issues, because guess where that all kind of comes from systemically? All their patients ever say is, I wish I had taken care of something 20 years ago. That's all they want to say too. So you are, like we talked about in the beginning, you are at war with the future in a lot of cases here, not the present. But again, those of you still will enter situations where you will have to confront this sort of thing. Given that, it doesn't hurt to consider all the options, right? Yeah, and I put one up there that I'm kind of laughing at, by the way. I mean, I guess you can make a case for, you know, dressing like an asshole, but still, it's kind of mean. Yeah, I guess you can just think to yourself for a bit. You really don't have to share much. Everybody's sort of on different scales with this. And it's the slow creep of death and aging approach, like they do in your 30s. You start to be like, ah, shit, I got to do stuff. Yeah. It's not only healthy to reflect on this now, but there'll come moments where you may be the only person with patients really has for the last few weeks, maybe. Another thing we're doing right now is, again, not on the test, but when was the last time that you sat for 10 seconds and thought about something like that? Boredom is really annoying, trust me. Now we have an anti-boredom device, right? But don't forget the moments where you can like have to yourself like this. That's where you really find and begin thinking a little more sometimes. I don't know. Helps me, and I know it'll help your patients someday. But you can consider as well where that innate fear comes from. Besides public speaking, death is the second largest fear in America. So they would rather be dead than actually be the professor, strangely. Or like, I was just self-importing myself there, but really the phrase goes, people would rather be in the coffin than do the eulogy still. Not ideal. I think each of us would have a different reason for why it's scary. And some of us may have the reasons why it's not, and that's fine. Again, it's just summon as you enter the field you're maybe going into. You need to be there for these questions when somebody asks you this for free. Now, given everything and all the doom and gloom, it was only a while back that things weren't looking so hot. I don't know if you guys in the back can see a little scale there, but wasn't an ideal time to be a human being 200 years ago. Who's ever drank out of sewage before? Who's ever had infectious diseases sprayed at them by animals walking in their poop all over the street and stuff, right? Yeah. Who can you imagine living without dental care your whole life? Just getting cavities from eating wheat your whole life? Just feeling like trash? And who knows the big reason why that 45 years is the average back there? Who's dragging that number down? Yeah. Time of death, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, tiny, right? What is it like? Something along the lines of like 3/4 of most kids would die. And again, horrifically, we'll see what kills you when it's infectious and how we beat that up to a point. So, last little bit here before we get into some break time and some other good stuff. One last thing, very important in the field you're going into, and it relates to this too, by the way, the life expectancy. Why is it called a nursing home? It used to be a wing of the hospital, where essentially that was actually a hospice. There never used to be what we consider a nursing home, little buildings with little rooms where security is maximized. You don't want to fall, you don't want to do anything. In all the studies, whenever there is just a bit more, essentially, I'm not trying to go, USA here, but more freedom, what you want to do, where you can go. Well-being question really rises back, bites back at the idea that is security worth everything in medicine sometimes? Now again, bigger question should be, when you guys enter health, do try and be the proactive, do try and remind people, you're making a 20-year investment if you keep running or lifting or eating well and all that good stuff. So yeah, there'll be a few times that I'll kind of go all meathead, but we do have a lot of athletes in the room, so we'll have a good time with that. All right. So as you consider to reflect and have fun and etc., enjoy your first precious break time photo. Those of you that have never seen Her Majesty, this is Scout. She's our little adopted Pomeranian. She's 13 now, and she's doing pretty well. She does have congestive heart failure though. One thing, I think I told you guys that last year. We'll learn about it. We'll learn why it's a one-way street. But like we kind of saw at Farm, she was supposed to be dead in February, actually. But little Mrs. Kickass had more problems and poops and pees to give, so we're still good. And daily dose of Vetmen, Olanzapine, dang it, I'm missing all of them. She got about 4 pills, so yeah, good Good luck for those that are about to watch her actually for us. Anyway, what do y'all want for the break time? It's always kind of changing class to class. The quicker the break, the sooner you're out of here. The longer the break, more relaxation, hooray. What do you guys think? Sometimes we can start with an even 5 minutes and see how 7 feels on the second one. All right, let's try 7 now. I think we're actually pretty far ahead. I talked pretty fast today. So we'll go with 7. I will see you around 6:52. And we are essentially done with our Monday of the class. See, yeah, because it's going to be all 3. All right, good job. Is this aging or is this a condition or a disease? All kind of begins here. Healthier these little guys can be, better. Because any one of these things that goes down, other things will continue to go down. Because what cells are built on, cells are built essentially sort of on mitochondria in a lot of ways. You lose the cells, you lose the tissue. You lose the tissue, if its function goes crazy. We're going to meet a few characters for that today. It is a week-long class. Sorry, I was going to hit you with some red text. Check it out. 21st century. Fix mitochondria, right? We did some cool stuff in genetics, but man, I mean, this has a lot of tie-in with like the sort of de-aging type of stuff. One thing people always forget about mitochondria, you know they're running around the cell hunting and eating, dividing on their own like little animals. A lot of strange things about them. But yeah, as they go, as they age, sort of we do too. So the idea would be not to allow that to happen. But building on what Henry said, not only do you need a membrane, you really need to decide who's allowed in, not. Need some 6 characters right here. Again, definitely, I'm going to assume we have seen these little guys before, right? Transporter channel array, markers to signify what tissue type you are, who you connect with potentially. Because again, you're not a pile of like wet cells, right? Adhesion's a big thing. They have to stay together in the right space. And again, we'll see what true matrix is built out of. The cells aren't the only thing that you're made of. You're made of a bunch of connective tissues too, and you got to connect to those. Enzymes are best friends since 105. You got to make something into something else, and some of that's on the outside of the cell. My favorite. Something outside. Step 1, step 2, sort of a translator. The inside world of the cell that connects and finds the third thing. That something outside the cell can influence what goes on inside the cell is the reason we're here, essentially. As long as you have that strong border with stuff, perfect, but there's got to be a way to speak to each other. They do have a language, essentially. We'll see how that language goes bad. And like I've told most of you that have me in phys, there's the one best way to learn physiology is to see how you can break it. That's the best way. Let's see. What ways, based on some of the stuff that you guys have seen before, these are all pretty normal terms right here. You've seen like, all right, signaling, paracrine, autocrine, like all that good stuff. What can go wrong with that? And things simple here too. Could a condition for a disease simply be that a secreting cell of a paracrine signal just stopped working? No more signal, no more result. What other element can go wrong? Let's just focus on a paracrine right now. What element could go wrong here in that relationship, that one-way relationship? Secretor could not secrete anything. Oh yeah, Malcolm's advanced. Yeah, nice. Yeah, way too much or too little signal, right? Yeah.
I know this is more what we were talking about neurotransmitters acting as a secreting cell, but problem of reuptake.
There you go. So reuptake is we'll get into the brain, but anytime you guys have a nice little hit of dopamine, or like when I win my Fortnite match, stuff like that, you got to put it back. can't just let it float out there, otherwise things start to sort of buzz a little too oddly. Perfect. I didn't know this was like the 92 dream gene. This is good. This is gonna be easy. All right. Target cell could be missing something, right? You could spit out all the signal on the planet, but if the target cell, for whatever reason, doesn't have a working receptor, you're just shooting into the wind. So again, like I said, we're in blue text land still. It's fine. I want you to start considering everything that I learned. Dr. G, how could it go bad? What ways can we move these chess pieces here so that we can unmove them or block their issues, essentially? So, my favorite, like I said, most power in your body, in the human patient, is because of simply this system. Signals exist, and they do come from somewhere, but we're oversimplifying. The receptor grabs the signal, something inside the receptor can now activate, and now off the races. There are all kinds of things you can do with whatever this intracellular yes signal is. Most of the time, like those of you that have had me multiple times, most of the time, that's gonna be our best friends, transcription factors, repressors, all the epigenetic guys. You want to turn on a gene, right? You want to do something. That's how you do it. You can't just float right through the membrane unless you're a steroid or gas. Now, I got two fates on the bottom, by the way, that we'll see over and over, and good for us. Fate number one right here. There are plenty of signals right now going through your body, and their whole role is to simply tell the cells that they are destined for, the cells that have their receptor. Not every cell has each receptor. Well, I want you to survive, let's say. Okay, sorry. Just don't die. Same things can happen with signals that instead say, you know what? You were a connective tissue cell, but you're getting a little close to the intestines we're developing. I want you to change. I want you to become the next character that you could be. I remember all the hundreds of tissues we have. They all have to eventually have gotten the signal to say, become. On the bottom, plenty of signals. My favorites of research. Make more of yourself. Just think about it. Where are areas of your body that you need tons more cells? You guys from last fall can't answer. Here, wait, I can go to my cards soon. What areas of the body, what areas of the body need renewal all the time? Give you a hint. What are the main symptoms of chemo? When you kill dividing cells, what dies? Hair, skin, intestinal lining. But yeah. Nice. All right, last one, and very important. We'll meet its sort of equal cousin later, but there's plenty of times that cells gotta go. And apoptosis is not as violent as you might think. If it receives a signal, usually internally, often from the mitochondria, it will self-sacrifice. And most of the time, this is actually a very well-regulated, happy thing, because see these little like globules here. Apoptosis is very well regulated. It brings in the immune system. They gobble everything up. Everybody's safe. No signals get missed. I'm going to hint at what's coming later. If this is not organized, and you don't get a macrophage or another cleaning cell in here, it's all set. If you just popped a cell open, what are you unleashing? Just, yeah, you're thinking stuff, right? Yeah. Kind of just any signal that was in there, any waste product, any nasty thing that the cell, yes, may have been making. We're not to immunology yet, but it will release a lot of what you look like, won't it? And if later on the immune system comes by and is like, I'm going to make a response against this thing, it's accidentally a piece of you. Now we're talking like half the class. All right. So apoptosis, very well regulated, but again, the most important setup here, no matter what, is signal, cell receives, cell does something. And that is all a question. This is why genetics is a prereq. Signals themselves are often genes, and it's the receptors here. That's where we're all very different. How sticky are certain receptors in the brain for dopamine? Some of us can get dopamine harder than others, for example. Manuel?
So if the apoptosis process is dysregulated, the immune cell could potentially make autoantibodies.
Maybe. Because if you do the other thing besides apoptosis, we're going to meet at the end, just grabs everything. Versus in the little digestible pieces for apoptosis, everybody's a little more organized. Macrophage will not think that there's an attack. It's natural. It's like the piece is like kind of trash itself. Okay. Hooray. This is just, I couldn't help myself but do another slide. Sorry, it was really well done and I felt bad for the bookmakers. Anyway, this one's a little more involved. And as you can see, it's one of your favorites from all that time ago. What receptor, what guy is that on the left?
Sodium potassium.
Number one. We'll see why it's important. Don't worry, it gets memed second most to mitochondria. But from the phys background, again, you have a lot of different kind of receptors types. The main ones being channels that can open in response to something. G protein coupled receptors are just kind of, I would give you those more of like a signaler again. And you also have channels. So the signalers are kind of what we saw up above in the first slide. Like we talked about so far, that sort of flux between chemicals is quite important because if the cells don't get what they want, they'll misbehave or they'll blow up. And it's far worse to sadly have one that misbehaves. All right. Like I say, again, it's blue text, it's kind of just seeing it one more time. Your cells don't know what they're missing. If a receptor is broken, clogged, genetically mutated, they're going to act like they should be getting something, but not. What does this mean for neurotransmitters? Like in pharmacology, when you would see nicotine start showing up, you would actually get more receptors. That suddenly signal wasn't there, you get that agitation. But the opioid receptors, what opioids actually do is cause a receptor that cancels everybody else around it. So once you have opioids constantly hitting that thing, your body gets rid of the receptors because it's like, I know my stuff's coming. I only need one receptor to do the job of 10. But now you don't have the stuff. And I'm not happy. Whole body reacts. We'll get to see that coming up, don't worry. All right. And again, someday down the line, if I think a lot of you are graduating, still, if you get the chance to take pharmacology, you'll get to see more of the large wing of how we can manipulate this. We can make drugs that look like a signal. We can make drugs that block signals. That's actually what we're best at. But if we can fix something that is wrong, that's the beauty of modern medicine. I know that, the pharma companies, take their shit and all that. But think of them as sort of the Soviets in World War II. They pay for it in a lot of money and blood, basically. And we're here in a lot of ways thanks to that sort of investment. That said, most true drugs are made in an academic R1 style setting, like like U of M, then championed later in trials where money matters a little more. So let's meet what the cells are actually existing on, because not every part of you is a cell. We'll get to see in a very nice little red text example where we kind of mess this up later. A lot of your cells, these little guys, little matrix cells, they're just spitting out collagen, elastin, some other stuff that makes that like a tissue you feel, right? It's also interconnected with like blood stuff. The blood is also going to be feeding oxygen and exchanging to your cells, and everybody's having a good time. But the matrix itself doesn't have the same brain that a cell does. You don't have any genes, it's just a mesh. But injuring it is obviously not ideal. And like we'll see with tumors, It is it's sort of the environment that that game is played. Tumors can find a way to sort of terraform things, unfortunately. For now, I wanted to give you a visual of what that area is actually like. Let's finish up this section. Here we go. The main thing is that you have to have control of who you allow in, how much you need it. You should not, for example, have kind of thing. You should not have I want to say something that's not possible here. You should not have I'm going to guess, like an adrenaline signal in one of your, I don't know, intestines deep in there. You don't need adrenaline down there. You need to choose which receptors that type of cell needs to be selecting. And what that ultimately means is that because, again, 5105 of a rescue, not much can get through here. If you're big, you can't get through. If you're large, way. If you're charged in any way, you're not allowed through. Large and charged, thumbs down. Back here. Yeah. God, no. Poor iPad is on year 5. It may not survive the semester. We'll see. It's a bit of a horse race between that and the computer. Now, the point of this is because we want tons of certain things. Your cells want all the glucose they can get, your intestinal cells. They don't want 50-50. They can't wait for that. You saw this. They want to take it all. They can't take, they have to regulate how many of these little guys are allowed in. What happens when you have too much sodium? When you go to McDonald's and you're really hungry, you make the mistake and you get sick. What's going on right there? The patient gets bloated. The patient starts sweating. What's happening to that excess sodium? The patient is dehydrated. Drawing it out of you accidentally. It's drawing out the water from the cells because you imbalanced everything so badly. But hey, we've all been on a road trip through Eastern Colorado. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Well, most of you haven't, but most hopefully you can spare yourself from that. But yeah, so many of what we'll see this year again. You've seen it so many times, I know. But any of these imbalances are the beginning of what we can do with these diseases. All right, here we go. Here's a big reason why you are absolutely punished with sodium potassium your whole life. So much of your ATP, so much of all the sugars we eat, the reason we start getting really excited when you say candy bar, for example, is you need and you crave evolutionarily glucose, which can be very quickly converted into ATP, which can power this guy. Sodium potassium pump. Why go to all that trouble? Y'all have had this. Look over here. I'm going to tell you the golden rule I'll tell you from this. Wherever the sodium is, there's positive charge. It is an overwhelming force in the body. Follow the sodium and look out here where it is. You are constantly pushing it out here. So many of your cells. What organ do you think uses the most ATP relative to its size? Come on, what makes humans special? All our anxiety, all our thoughts, yeah. The big guy. You know, evolutionarily, we did so well having a big brain that it actually worked out evolutionarily wise. And we'll get to this later, but giving birth as a human is tough because of big old brain, yeah. But it was worth it. The way that you sustain it is right here. Now, too much of a good thing, like Malcolm said before, you don't think super well when you got too much sodium, right? There's a balance. But having this gradient, let's go here first. this reason. The action potential. It's the most badass sounding name for basically just sodium bouncing back and forth. When you give a signal in your brain central or outwardly here, that's it. And that's the reason you needed that positive charge, is that you are pushing it out, waiting a moment's notice to grab, potentially catch something. That's okay, too many of you are ready. And I think if I struck one of you with a little plastic, I'm gonna get in trouble. But all that goes in, and all that snap, that ability, all because every one of your stuff right now is ready. Okay, let's play a little game. This is from the Phys Lab. It's all right, yeah, we're gonna do a little break here. We're gonna have a little contest. Notice here that you can only go so quickly, right? You can't actually inject sodium while the potassium is, making a return, right? So in sports, for example, there's a lot of times where you have to make not just one move, but two, right? Why do most injuries happen when you're more tired? That second move, what do you sweat out? It's slower, right? Not as quick, but your mind thinks you're going to make that second move quick, and you don't. And bam, structural stuff. Now, your boy has a knees of elastic, so it's never happened to me, but some other bad. I've broken a lot of bones, to be honest. But yeah, this is why injuries happen when you're tired. You're not hydrated enough. Second movement is good. All right, you have my permission to break out the phones. Go to your clock app. And for Android users, I'm sorry what it is, whatever. Anyway, I don't speak green text, so let's do a stopwatch. Have a little contest here. Like I said, I'm an only kid. I'm really competitive. You saw it on the thing. I'm an excellent Super Smash Brothers player. I will crush all of you only on the N64. I don't play the rest. I'm too old. Okay. All I want from you is your reaction time. So, thumb to thumb or just finger to finger. Start to top. How fast can you go? Let's see what we can do. Yeah, let's see what we can do. Bam, bam. No cheating where it's like two fingers and then bam, bam. So let's go here. Okay? There we go. Take a screenshot if you get a good one.
You gotta get better than that.
Yeah, no one beat me. Oh! We got it. It's over! I'm not even gonna try. Oh! That is the speed from your brain. Your brain is telling you to do something faster than it actually can because literally the sodium has to reset. Oh, okay. Don't you guys should join my Phys Lab.
I keep being quick.
There's always a choice. No, that didn't look like an iPhone though. We don't count those. No. Steve Jobs only. All right, how y'all doing? Who's got some numbers out here?
I got 0.06 and now you just disqualified by 0.02.
0.02?
Yeah, you disqualified me.
Why?
Because you said it's an Android.
Asterisk. All right. Let's see. Wait, I want to see some more reaction time. Go. All right, I can't draw myself. That was a bad first draw. Can you just kind of just said that? Hey, what'd you get? Maddie, how'd you get? Wow. I'm gonna shuffle these two up. Gavin, what'd you get?
Hey, I think you would.
Malcolm, what'd you get?
1.6.
Impossible. Right again. Bethel, what'd you get?
How?
All right. Last one. Haley, what'd you get?
0.09.
Nice. So I assume among iPhone users, nobody struck 0.06, right?
I did.
He did.
Ooh.
And I got 601 just now.
Not there. All right. One more try. I haven't got it anymore. I just can't do it. It's the age. You seem to way quick when you're retired. Anyway, that right there is more important than it looks, sadly, basically what I'm telling you. Part of, for example, as you think about aging. Think about what's changing here. A cell that burns a lot of energy to maintain a gradient would rely on what organelle? Yeah, the little guys, mitochondria. And as they go again. So what you just did witness was, again, the action potential. And like you've all seen in a phys or phys equivalent, if you try to hit a second spike while in the middle of the spike, it is impossible. The sodium's literally in the wrong place. So if the sodium's chronically in the wrong place, you can imagine the issues. Or if the sodium is overwhelming, or guys who've seen heat stroke, sodium is not present. So, my little guys, to say the least, should have put this at the end, but yeah, back to it. The action potentials do control, obviously, muscle stuff. And you might have been thinking like, okay, ALS, aging, I'm seeing that. The same systems control when we allow sodium in. And if that signal impulsive sodium would allow in our friends glutamates, GABA, all the other things. This is where a lot of you guys in pharma will start to be like, hey, I remember this. Because we design a lot of drugs to block or help some of these things. But here's what we're going to see in this class is when you don't have the right balance with these, we'll see that there's a very large difference in the chemical composition of a schizophrenic patient in the brain than there is a bipolar patient or an anxious patient or multiple personality disorder patient. Comes down back to what we've all been doing here in text, boring stuff. It's not too boring, by the way. And who's ever done Legos, right? You guys got to build those first little pieces, right? Did I only see one hand going? Anyway, one other fun thing that, well, it's kind of sad. A lot of this class is actually kind of grim, I'm not going to lie. Okay, now just oversimplifying. If your body takes in many things, many chemicals, things from the air, let's say, dust, would it not make sense that your intestine, mucous membranes, liver maybe can't get rid of everything all the time, right? What I want to get across here is simply that if you take in too many of anything, and that could be from supplements, that could be from breathing the wrong stuff, that could be from maybe having something wrong with getting rid of the stuff, even a normal ingestion of it, or simply eating too much, like McDonald's, like I said, geez. You get a lot of things are going to get a little crowded. So I know, and again, one other note I had for this class is that, yeah, things are a little strange out there on social media for biology these days. They weren't 5 years ago, but here we are. Like I said, you will be experts when you cross the stage. I aim to show you that there's some nuance to all this. Core messages, yeah, you probably shouldn't eat total shit all the time. But it's complicated. And it's fun. You don't need to be an expert in it, you just have to want to learn a little bit. But let's take a look. If you end up with too much stuff, sometimes your poor cells, they don't know how to eat it or digest all of it. Now, if your liver is the one that has that problem, then the floodgates are done. Because if you lose the liver, man, the rest of that stuff is going out after you now. It's going to come get you. Okay. Sometimes, call back to 211. Remember when we were folding the proteins? You got to make sure things folded nice. If they don't, they may not have a signal to actually get them out. If they're shaped wrong, they're supposed to fit the right receptor. I just plug traffic and tie stuff. What's the other misfolded protein that can be a little more direct? Remember, is Matt count as these? Yeah, no more whispers. Shout. No, I'm kidding, no. You'll end up on the recording. So let's get into some more genetic type idea. Some people are born without the genes that help lysosomes really acidify and function. No lysosome, no cell digestion. You start to see this word over and over again, right? Accumulation, accumulation. Body is built to exchange, okay? And the kidneys may be boring, but you need them. And our favorite, the more human of the conditions, indigestible materials and the accumulation of. I am going to go to the cards for this one because there are multiple right answers, but I think there's one big guy out there that we're all thinking of. What is an exogenous material that doesn't digest? Jonathan, get down there. You can pick one, because then it's not me. Yeah, me. Hey, Elliot, welcome. What do you think? What's something that humans should not potentially take in too much of?
Is it starch?
The wrong settings too. And there are certain starches that we've modified, right? They may not look as natural, right? They never, or they take a long time for them to get broken down. You guys remember trans fats? Those were in my childhood time, yeah. There's no enzyme that hits the trans fat on that. It's just shaped one little thing different. Takes years to get rid of. Okay? Think more, think darker timelines. I already called on Haley, so no fair. Camille.
Is that certain gases?
Yeah, absolutely. They may not, they will accumulate in a certain way, but what advantage, if Camille's answer is right, what advantage gases have over every other material that we talked about cell context-wise? We go right through, don't we? Big reason you got carbon monoxide things in the house, right? You don't know what's happening. Lilia. What is it? All right, I'm running out of stuff. What is an indigestible material humans shouldn't have? Think more like that. I'm trying to hint. I think I made too big of a deal of it because now everybody's hyped. All right. Does anybody think they know what I'm going for here? You too. Yes! Indigestible micro and nanoplastics. Oh, shoot. Oh, no. And yeah, it's been going on right around the time that bags started to be at the grocery store. It was like, oh no, the forests make them plastic. Shoot. Because yeah, they got in the, they're around. That is not in the textbook, but we will have time for it later. But when you have too much of something that you can't get rid of, the organelles don't function quite the same way. And if they accumulate in a powerful enough cell or a group of cells, well, it's not a deal. All right. Promise you that I would finally, we only got 2 more slides, I swear. We're almost done. Well, we'll think about it. Oh, that's right, yeah. We may skip cancer until next time. All right. I gave you apoptosis, right? Normal cell. Everything's kind of regulated. You kind of, wait, this is on there, isn't it? I changed, well, wait, didn't I?
It's a ways down.
Oh, sorry, I switched it on you. Whoa. If I make a sandwich, I don't know how to want to taste it. Got it for free, okay? Sneaky. You guys don't break your addiction to the slides. Anyway, let me know, give me a few thumbs up once you're kind of in the right neighborhood. I wanted to get this back, I wanted to get this a little more recent for us. Okay. What I want is side by, sorry, Sarah. All right, what I want is side by side. Just take a look here quick. Apoptosis, nice and organized. See those little guys right there? Nice and digestible, super clean. Necrosis. Welcome to our very first true, like, everything causing injury. You can get necrosis from something progressive, like damage over time. All the stuff we just saw, the accumulation of stuff. Sometimes they just shred. But be creative What else would cause immediate shearing and death of the cells? You get frostbite, right? You get a burn, right? What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, oh,
Yeah, just acid boom, right? Just shred it all. Look at the shape of necrosis. Who else is leaking too? See here the mitochondria are nice and taken care of. You can eat them nice and safely. Man, once these things get out in the open, what do they look like? Do those look like human cells? To your immune system? No. Bacteria. That's gonna draw out among all the other shit just spilled out. Bunch of our friends in the immune system. We will meet one by one in a few weeks. Big guy, and I know that you may hear the word inflammation maybe 1,000 times in this class. I'm sorry. But it's not so much that the cell dying doesn't, destroy the area, all that stuff. The real person you got to be worried about is it's going to get your immune cells really riled up. And not the smart ones. They're going to come in there. They're going to start shooting everything that moves. Because think about it, we'll meet these later in detail. If you get a cut, think about how much bacteria are on all your skin right now. On the tip of your finger, there's more bacteria than there are people in the United Kingdom. So you get a cut on your arm, boom, they're all coming in. The role of your dumb immune cells is to just shred everything they see. They don't know that that's not an infection, just no injury happened. Now, to a degree, we evolved with this because, again, a lot of bad injuries often came with gangrene, infection, all that good stuff. They get a little overzealous, and necrosis really doesn't let them regulate very well. So, for example, who's all ever had a nice sunburn? Oops. Don't worry. It's only like 9 or 10, and you gotta worry. Don't ever UV tan, by the way. Oh my God. I don't know why I gotta keep saying that, but still. I don't want to hear any laughter at that. All right. Last little fate here before we take a little break. As you get older, and there's one more strange fate that awaits your cells, senescence. A normal cell functions and is fine. It's doing its thing, but gradually, body starts to shift energies. The immune system starts to kind of play different games. And if your body sort of senses that things in a certain area aren't going to require as much work, you enter this. You don't necessarily need to do apoptosis. You definitely never want to grow. Senescence is sort of like a frozen in time version of the cell. And they kind of self-sustain themselves a little bit and just hang out. But they do, if too many of them get together in one spot, they start to somewhat age the area around them. So gray patches and hair and stuff, that's a bit of a senescence thing, for example. As you get a bit more tired and you're slower to rise from stuff and like eating's, kind of harder if you have something, bigger and stuff. It's because some of your cells that used to be a little bit more commanding have entered this state. Same reason why the immune system's gradually kind of just goes down in terms of, thought process and smartness. Where this is really going to also affect is, again, we'll see the cardio system. Cardio system's the classic killer of Americans and all that good stuff. Blood pressure stuff, all that has its roles here. Is that as you go, a lot of your cells are simply sort of taking a semi-permanent break. We're not going to spoil the surprises that we'll see when we investigate cancer versus senescence, but for the most part for now, this is the sort of fate of a lot of your cells here. Now, given that, before we take our second break, because you've earned it, you're very good, hooray. You can kind of consider some of the things we've seen, especially senescence. Why didn't humans evolve to live longer? Some things look 200 years. Look at the tortoises. Look at the oysters, the mollusks. Don't bring up that stupid jellyfish, that's not fair. What is so good, Gabby?
I wondered if when we were divulging on the evolutionary pathway to focusing on bigger brains, if we at that same time were sacrificing like our telemeters and stuff like that.
You're on the right, yes. If I can put it into such good words here. You guys ready for something dark? Let's do this. Okay, okay, it's not that bad. Sorry, I made pause. What makes humans are social animals, right? What's good for a pack? What's good for a wolf? What's good for a wolf pack? What's good for evolution in general? Change, right? Can the wolf pack try new things if the leader lives for 200 years? No. So although very successful mammals that are social, though their lifespans are a little more limited, there is a reason for that, and it is that having this timer makes sure that the species is dynamic and fresh, essentially. These dogs only live 10 to 12 years. So, it's part of this. Well, when we meet the immune system, we'll see how it kind of finishes the job on all of us, if you live that long enough. Okay, so with that grim reminder, go ahead and take another break and I'll decide if we're gonna do double tumor time or just do one section here. I'm gonna make an example. Oh yeah, there we go. Good, I thought I lit the recording slide for a solid 7 minutes. Taking up precious YouTube server space isn't fair. All right. When the time comes, and I do use the word tumor instead of cancer because connotation, cancer is more of a cultural term, right? We think of cancer patients, don't think of tumor patients. But in our business, of a foreign level class, comes to mind. Again, you don't have to shout anything out. One way I can guide you thinking is, why are these so much different than like pretty much everything else in Pathodex? And again, for those of us that are joining me from last year's cancer bio, sorry, don't get bored, you'll be fine. Sorry. Yeah, because I think at this rate, yeah. Some of you will have seen my cancer spiel 3 times now. Maybe we'll give you guys a break during that time. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Share whatever your, I don't know, thoughts are with whoever's around you, anything like that. See if they're different, the same, whatever. Or to throw an eye at it. Which, that's interesting. What do you guys think? And again, maybe doesn't have to be super sciencey. You'd always impress me with a more philosophical take. I would say, as a person who studied this for all these years, well, I should preface the people that don't know me, that's my research, is tumors, blood cancer specifically. I'd say more that the word like manipulation, like terraforming sort of always comes to mind when I think of tumors. Way more to this than just one cell going bad. You're talking about a whole economy getting taken over and then everybody dying. Not exactly the way you want things to go. What else do you guys got for me? And you can be sciencey. That's fine. I actually appreciate it. I have 3 volunteers in case I don't hear anything. What'd you say, Allie?
As we said, the uncontrollable division of cells.
I like that, uncontrollable. Because like we talked about before, if your cells are kind of dumb, they get the right signals or they mess up something. I don't know any better. Michelle, cancer bio expert. Mortality, I love that. There you go. Emmanuel, follow up. You get the hardest one. 2 people have already gone. Yeah, there it is. It's crazy reading. Whenever you read Russian translations into English, the word malignant is really overused, and it's like always caught me really strangely. Like I don't know, it's strange because it is. There's a reason the word malignant is so scary. It's because it is taking over and literally parasitizing them. There is no other force that we've yet to face down and fail against besides this. So, some basics, just 6 slides, don't worry. Best friends. There is a balance of go and stop, all of your cells. And I must fit this to the screen, sorry. I want to highlight. So, key signals trigger our next event, cell division, down just a bit, because I want to do this. We brutalize you guys for this cell cycle, when in fact, most of your cells are just all the time. Or the cells we just talked about that have high renewal, test in the hair, all that good stuff. Most everybody else should be in G0. But every one of your cells has the entire playbook of how to make itself fit too. And it's been going on since the very first cell ever formed, so it's kind of good at its job. Now that said, you've got a lot of good stuff in here for checkpoints. Like that says right there, there's certain points of no return. At least if the cell is found to be bad, it'll do apoptosis if everything's going right. But signals can come from the outside that will trigger cyclins and the CDKs like we saw in genetics to overaccumulate. That can also be where the house is coming from. The call is coming from inside the house sometimes too. Certain genes may simply have too many copies, something like that. But if you are well fed, if you're being told to divide, you will do it. You will then enter, you gotta make 2 cells, you need double DNA. Right there is where the tumor cell is most sensitive, where most of our chemos try to kill it, right when they're all lined up in mitosis. That's when it's at its most vulnerable. Like I said, all that time ago, and this is just another thing that goes back and forth biology, strengths or weaknesses or strengths. When it's most sensitive at S phase, and even if it encounters chemo. We just talk about how pack of things likes to change very often. More mutation suddenly is a good thing for something like this. And even the horrifying thing that we'll see later, do you know what causes a lot of rebound cancers? Chemo that got rid of your first one. I'm not saying, dude, take the damn chemo. I'm saying there's always might be one hit in there that gets mutated by the chemo, but it just didn't die. And then later on, we come back. We got to solve it again. And again, G2 and M is kind of the final one. You have to also have all kinds of, like, think how many things we just had to, like, make sure we're good to go for this to happen. Cancer takes about 3 to 4 issues to give the go-ahead. But if you get one cell that might grow just a little faster for whatever reason, maybe that one becomes 100 million of that version. And now a 1 in a million mistake suddenly isn't so bad to make. Yeah, that's the core issue right there. That cycle becomes infinite or immortal, as Michelle said. There's certain other things that will meet that will complete the picture a little better. The reason that, again, tumors are a strange part of the class. We'll have our own dedicated class for them, and I'm so excited for it, obviously. Again, it's the story of a lifetime for biology majors. It's the full thing, all in scale. Ecology, evolution, genetics, the whole thing's in play. Everything that you've learned turns against you. But ultimately, where our class will take this is we will get to see how and why, when they break away, what that's going to do to the other actual systems. What do you think is going to come through what was that nice cell border right there? What did we just talk about? Shouldn't things be in the right proportions next to each other? No more receptors, no more exchange rates going on. This is where most of the symptoms would actually begin for the patient. That's the problem with tumors, is you usually only see it when it's too late a lot of the time. That's why pancreatic is such a bad one. Never see it until it's like in the lungs. And it's breaking things in the lungs. Okay. Like we talked about, it's just a nice little red text to show you how you can get this done. You have genes with you. Little red guys right there, they stop things in their tracks if things are bad. They're your good guys. You have 2 copies of each one. They both go down for any reason or another. Gates are open. So philosophically, even if you mutate or gain a new copy or gain lots of epigenetic copies of an oncogene, well, it's kind of dumb usually, and it just grows a lot, gets caught, blows up. These tumor suppressors, they will trigger that nice apoptosis for us. And a lot of the time, everything's good. Your immune system will also be able to detect cancer cells in you and kill them before they ever turn anything. Right now, in each one of us, probably 500 to 1,000 individual cells that are precancerous. But these ones probably will never see the light of day because of the systems you have in check and your friendly pally immune system. Now, given that though, what the point of this slide is, and especially before we'll revisit this slide in a bit or in a while. People, and again, my field of thought of cancer as a genetic disease, we are finding that it is more of an ecology question. Who is around the tumor and is controlling its ability to signal, or not allowing its ability to get killed? Notice that you have a lot of the absence of T cells, recruitment, or sometimes miscommunication. When too many of the immune cells show up to the party, they start talking, they start panicking, and they start killing everything, or they freeze. It's kind of like what would happen if there was a fire in a theater, or let's say that, let's even be more grim. There's a fire in the room. Let's say it's small and it's over there, but if I just yelled right now, I'm not going to do it, but I just yelled fire, would we not do more damage than the little thing that was over there already? That's the problem with your immune system sometimes. And it gets dumber as you age, unfortunately, if you don't keep it kind of rolling a little bit. So, just wanted to pop in here and say that's how physical environment around it, cells that are not the tumor, they matter just as much. Last one too here, tumors are nasty. They thicken that matrix that you met a few days ago, I was gonna say, slides ago, sorry. They thicken that matrix so that nothing can get in. Not even oxygen. Which you might think, well, that sucks. Tumors can produce, you know, when you sprint and you feel that burning, lactic acid, no oxygen. Tumors can thrive on that. They'll acidify the area, terraform it to their capabilities, and continue to parasitize you. Scary world out there, huh? We're all gonna eat a little better and do some exercise, huh? All right. Here's where that immune question gets very tough, because the word inflammation means a lot of things. I will say for this class, it means the act of trying to repair what your immune system thinks is a literal injury or infection. Like we talked about. Who's ever had a splinter though? That's just the worst. Like, we should put it on the Pathodex, splinter. All right. Because coming with the splinter is all the natural wonders of the world. What happens immediately on a splinter? Red, swelling, eventually like pus when it fixes, right? All these little white guys coming in from the blood and starting to just bathe this in poison and response. See a few of those dumb friends eventually, but keep the word neutrophils in mind. That is your dumbest of the immune cells. I'm going to write it on here for us. Out here. And we'll do it for the recording. So I'm going to say, neutrophils, again, like I said, when you have the cut, and again, a lot of other things are happening right now. When you have the cut, the neutrophils are they're what's causing the pain. They're just nuking everything they see. Because we should introduce one of the other things, why they do that. Who knows what sepsis is? You've ever heard of that? If a few of these guys ever get to the blood, you ever remember the exponential growth curve bacteria? Remember before antibiotics, when a cut in World War I would be way worse to die from usually? You've got to kill those things. That's the only way, is you get them right when you get them like that. So it's the reason your body acts like this. That said, what other things can cause inflammation? And again, you will hear in the mediascape the word chronic inflammation a lot. It is not like a false word. Don't let it blanket cover everything. We're going to meet what this is. That little bit at the end there. Something that finishes inflammation. That is, if you kill what was offending you, you have to fix the area. If you fix the area, do you need more or less cells? Who's got a scar? Who's got the biggest scar, huh? Any broken bones, anything? Anyway, scar tissue, right? Gotta seal that up. Scars look smaller or bigger than when they started. Yeah, you trigger the same thing. Remember that mitosis stuff? Repair for me. Let's hit up our dentist in the room. If the inflammation in the gums is really bad, what's going on? Constant repair, constant fight against whatever they're doing or eating or doing, whatever dysbiosis they've got. And that will lead to the finale for systemic stuff too. So, what I would say is when we hear the word, this is my favorite Latin word ever. We'll see this so many times when looking up what a certain disease, how it came to be, what it's doing. Word dysfunction often means the uncoordination of your immune cells. Now again, we're sort of in this little cancer mini intro right now, but wherever there is inflammation in a certain spot, and this continues to keep happening, damage will follow. Necrosis will eventually follow. Signals don't fix. Remember all that time ago paracrine signaling? So, there's a reason smoking's so damn bad. Number one, it is mutating stuff. That's not good. Number two, it is calling forth in your lungs that they need to be repaired over and over again and bathing them in dumb immune cells, eventually to the point that the immune cells just stay. And they just keep constantly because they know it's coming. They know I'm gonna have to fix this again. This is the whole pathway I'm looking up in here, but eventually smokers' lungs, the reason they're black, yeah, part of it's soot, tar and stuff, but just been getting killed over and over again, and your lungs are a good self-renewing tissue, but they can only do so much. Eventually, one of those cells is gonna not be so good. So, hopefully that was a little stage setter for where we're gonna go. Trust me, again, cancer bio is like the journey of a lifetime. It's the coolest thing. We'll get our day with it though. In the meantime, let's be happier. Hello, I don't just have an 8-pound Pomeranian. We also have an 80-pound German Shepherd. And then our first class meme, what you studied, what was on the test. That's a trick, like my wife says, my wife's favorite is Scout. What you studied, the most important things, what was on the test? Poor Ranger. That's all right. I favor Ranger. My wife loves her gold baby Scout, but that's okay. But yeah, who do you think is the boss of each two? So we're kind of in a break time right now. Sorry, I should have said that. Who's the boss between the two? So bad. He survived in North Dakota, so we adopted him when he was like 2. In North Dakota in the winter, he hunted things. Yeah, yet Mrs. Bad here, who came from a breeder facility, very possessive over food, so she'll be like, rah, and like go get his food, and he'll just back him up. Yeah, so dogs are strange. I don't know where they get their marching orders, but they're really nice and fun, and they make for good little breaks. All right, last thing before we do our last break, we'll make this one a 5 minute or so that we can maybe scoot. Who's your guys' favorite character in The Lion King? Sorry. But yeah, a lot of your patients are just gonna be, tons of deaths, things like this. Just random stuff. Other things aren't quite as random. We do live in a society and that has groups, any human, too many people in one spot, or humans, sometimes they're gonna turn to violence. I mean, we are animals technically. So a lot of your patients are gonna look more like this. Blood force, chart force, and big guy. Gunshots. I actually turn these away from red text and blue. Gunshots of these ones are the ones that are the most odd physiologically. The others, they make some sense. And sorry for the graphic warning on there, but I mean, we're going to see way worse coming up in this class. No bad stuff. That's why I wanted this little bit on structural injuries, is that this class go a little more on that. All right, let's do this. Who's broken a bone before? Who's not broken a bone before? What is wrong with y'all? Go climb a tree. Come on. What are you guys doing? Anyway, probably stay safe. Don't do that. Don't climb any trees. I think it's illegal, actually. All right. Go ahead. I think I'm just saying that. I don't know. Don't climb the tree that's not yours. All right. First thing that's going to happen with a bone break, and again, most of this is going to be fine, but it is a pretty graphic and complicated, very cool process. Blood hematoma is going to form. The new network begins to form with blood carrying in the right signals for growth to stimulate what's left. See that orange matrix right there with osteoblasts. We're going to rebuild the thing. Kind of like scar tissue, it comes back a little bit more. Eventually, you seal it back up and the cells sort of just solidify. Now, this gets more complicated if the reason I brought up the structural stuff, because we'll get to meet this in the finale of the class in all its glory. One of my favorite it's the dark horse of physiology systems, is the bones. Oh, here we go. Gunshots are unique in their ability to mess up that tissue, cell matrix, everything we saw. Depending on where it enters and exits and all that stuff too, each one represents a very unique case every time. That's the problem. You'll see some and how, depending on the angle, caliber, everything. Different ways this is going to go. If somebody is shot, for example, with a larger weapon, an AR-15, it will make a cavity, essentially. And that cavity was so struck that oftentimes, and especially if you get a bone and some other things, without surgical intervention, nothing will ever grow here again. The necrosis from the immediate impact will draw forth all the friendly and unfriendly immune cells that we met. Hence why getting stabbed is one thing, but having a bullet in you or through you is there's a whole thing to this. Think about the Revolutionary War, any of the gunpowder wars back then. I mean, you're pretty much dead if you got a mini bullet. So, posing my question down here, a little morbid, but you would be surprised how many bullets actually ricochet off the skull. We're not the only animal with a decent enough skull. To actually kill an elephant or a Cape buffalo, not that I endorse that, you cannot shoot them in front of the head because they'll just get hit, they'll see you, and they'll kill you. Their skull's too thick. Ours is in certain areas. You get hit in the stomach, what else is going to happen to you? More painful than it is. That's still going to kill you, probably. Got it?
Well, there's a lot of different arteries and veins are probably going to damage, but if you don't damage those, it's a high chance you're going to damage, pierce your gastrointestinal system, and then you're going to get sepsis from that.
There you go. All the bacteria in your stomach, everywhere, and then they just eat you alive, basically. So, tougher than we want it to be. Again, why do we make you take all those physics classes? Look at that. Look at the way everything goes off and everything. There's a whole science to ballistics. I'm not kidding. I know it's not an episode of Dexter here, but still, I mean, I did watch the new season where he's young. It was pretty good. I like that. All right. So yeah, a lot of different things. The reason I ended with gunshots in this one is number one, we are going different fields instead. Number two, this brings us to a lot of stuff we saw today. Cavities, matrices, cells, everything. Wrong signals, all that good stuff. Now, before I do too much more again, I did kind of put this in here too. Again, I always have this because I do want to make the distinction. So strain is, yeah, they're both kind of impacted here with muscle and tendon. And a sprain is more ligament. So again, the reason you still want to make sure that you don't tear these is, remember, in KD, for example, tore his Achilles and popped out. Remember they pop? Without surgical intervention, but animals like us have that. Most animals just kind of live the rest of their life because it's just going to regrow into the wrong thing. That's that. And they're not going to eat, they're not going to live, they're not going to have kids, and that's evolution right there. That's tough. Now, we live in a modern society, and we are Homo sapiens, so a lot better. Nice. All right. Hooray. But there's no time. We had time for a few pictures, but that time has ended. All right. I'm trying to scooch you out of here. I'm trying to get you out of here. I was told to end by 7, but come on. No way. I'm getting your money's worth. No. It was not by any. It was a joke. Don't worry. All right. We will meet. Well, the recording will meet the main thing that physiology class kept us up on, which is the word homeostasis. Very boring. Very like I've seen this a million times, but let's just explore a bit. What's going to go down if you're too cold in your extremities? What's going to go down if fever gets you a little too hot? I'll tell you right now, necrosis is coming from both of those. That's not going to be good. Notice which areas of the body do retain as much possible heat. Sort of a signal to say, my brain is important, so is my heart. Last thing, those two things. Keep those going. Technically, you can make it work. Let's kind of zoom in on hyperthermia. What I want to show you just with these blue texts is there are some conditions that are fully systemic. We will meet the final boss levels of systemic conditions in the end. I didn't want to leave you without at least a couple examples of when, as a whole, body suffers that temperature drop. Go ahead and just explore for a bit. Consider what you learned in phys. Who's wrong now? What's going on? Why, for example, does vasoconstriction happen when you're cold? It's trying to push to the extremity, right? You can only do that for so long. Reason, you can only survive on like in the Arctic or in the Antarctica for so many minutes outside. Do a video that I think eventually, but if you get too cold again, what systems in the central nervous system freeze? What cells can no longer, what things can no longer move in the cell? All of our sodium and potassium stuff, yeah. Everybody's firing the wrong way and slower. You guys have seen the mountaineers that get way too far, right? And they're just like talking nonsense. All these things you're seeing here on the first level are things that we are trying to survive short term. But you can only short term so much. Sugar and cost oxygen, and really ramp up the acid in your body. It's not good, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to walk through all these, but that's the importance of maintaining things, and that's how quickly you can actually go down from something just as simple as too cold. Now, I'm a sick bastard, so I love the winter, man. Being cold is great. All right. Let's do one a little more personal to me as a Colorado person who's ever been at altitude before. Who's ever been, what's the highest altitude ever been at? 10,000. 13,000. 17,000. Still got it. All right, anyway. Well, for now. Oh yeah, I gotta tell you guys about my sabbatical travel plans. Tell you next class. All right. Go ahead and take a look through wind pressure across the body, because now this is another physics showing up here. Pressure across the body is different. This is what matters for that stuff that I showed you earlier in class, where it's like, simply have to have communication in the right form. Pressure changes, we're off. And the neat thing about this one is peoples from that area, certain genetic pieces can help you with that. But haste is, I shouldn't make too much light of it. It's tough to come back from sometimes because you'll get a few things in your head that can, like blood pressure issues. Problem is that your lungs start sort of popping and bleeding. And so you will die from drowning in your blood if it goes on long enough. But if you can hit that middle, like so many Everest climbers do, that's where Yetis come from. People think they see things because it gets so crazy and bad. If you click that link, you'll see a guy going through haze. So, and then, sadly, another big guy. We don't encounter radiation on a huge level anymore because we've made some good public health measurements. Nice. We removed a lot of stuff from houses and products and etc. Hooray. But do take kind if you are in a medical center not to spend too much time running around. Anyway, those were some big like kind of cell system stuff, you know, things like that. Yeah, this is good. I think almost I have left for everything. Unless, of course, you wanted to stay. Oh my God. Did you think you would escape? Did you think there was hope? I'm kidding. Now remember, this doesn't matter for anything. We have to do this in the upper level classes to like do assessment. Yeah, I'm sorry. So if you're strapped for time, you can be like, Keenan, I'm so sorry. Give me the 0. That shouldn't matter. Again, yeah, you guys, I think from farm, you guys remember we had to do this in farm. That's we did. Yes. Just do your best, don't get discouraged. Remember, that a lot of these questions are stuff like from the final. You don't know it yet, right? The whole idea is that you'll see it on the final and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, you guys got one? One more. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. It's a great time. Good job, hooray. But do this to the genetics class tomorrow too.